This week in Hollywood, Charlie Sheen accidentally shoots his fiancée Kelly Preston in the arm. She leaves him, but Sheen later tries to claim it was a misunderstanding involving a gun going off when he dropped his pants. Sounds very similar to the How I Lost My Virginity. This is The Lie. I'm Steve Jacob, and I'm here this week with my friend and worthy competitor, Bill Dispoto, who is filling in for John Kassir while he's off scaring the shit out of people at a far-flung horror convention. Hi, Bill.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Well, Steve, I know you backwards and forwards.
Well, yes, and forwards and backwards. Bill, we're out to prove that agents don't always want each other dead. Just a little bit.
we're not on either agent's death wish list, I don't think. So that's
not today. So how you doing? What's going on in your world?
In my world, it's good. I mean, well, it's always easy to say it's good. It's fine. It's just the roller coaster we're all going through in the business, and that article that you're going to bring up, the one on the Reporter this time, I mean, it really says it all perfectly as far as I was concerned, as far as how you thinking things were going to get better after the strikes ended, and now here we are and things are worse. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we all make the best of it.
Exactly.
No, it's,
we're treading water. It's all good-ish, but it could be better. God knows.
Yeah, it could be better. Luckily for, people on the end of the business like you and I, we do a lot of international work, and that kind of balances things out. We're not stuck with the local. We're not stuck with the local market the way. Well, we're going to talk to Danny Stevens today, who has been on the podcast before, but is very much a local LA hire, and he will give us somewhat of a bird's eye view of what's happening on the ground here. There's some stuff that's happening with how do you say, union locals that traditionally weren't encouraging their membership to get survival jobs, now are encouraging their membership to get survival jobs.
Absolutely. They are.
Yeah. So we've got that going on. So
Okay.
we'll talk to Danny. We are going to talk about the LA Film LA report that just came out, and we're going to talk about Jimmy Carter. So yeah, that's random, but we're going to talk about Jimmy Carter. So, so let's just roll right into it. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Los Angeles Film Permitting Office is ringing the alarm about low production levels after shooting in the region saw another decline. The 3-month period from July to September logged the weakest quarter so far this year, slipping 5% to roughly 5,000 shoot days, according to the latest report from Film LA. The figure falls short of shooting in the area during the same time last year, when production was halted amid Hollywood's dual writers and actors strikes.
That's the part of it that I was like, wow. When you figure, when we thought was maybe one of the darkest times, that it's a little worse now, which is interesting,
Well, I kind of thought that this would happen while that was going on, because, I don't know. I felt that the strikes itself were a big excuse for the major studios, for Netflix, for Amazon, to roll back anything they felt like rolling back. And they did.
Right.
And obviously that's going to have consequences that are ongoing. But, when they decide to cut inventory as far as they did cut inventory, I think that it was just going to happen.
It's like I knew, same thing. Before the strikes ended, when it was coming up, and executives and so forth were saying, "Well, we'll just produce about 40% less material," and then of course, understandably, clients, there was a hope like, "Oh, the strike's over. We're all going to just work like crazy again," and I was always saying, "Wait, there's no new normal yet, and when we won't know what it's going to look like until we know what the new normal is with this, as you said, less inventory." And I just didn't think the new normal landing would take as long as it has, you know uh, and certainly, as you said, when your department heads, which we both work with, they'll bring you to London, Mexico, Eastern Europe, wherever, Canada. But when you're a local crew, especially in Los Angeles, man, it just really, it makes me I feel terrible for all of that group in particular, because I don't know what their new normal is going to be like either.
Yeah, there's a bright spot in there, and that, it's a semi bright spot, is that television commercials were up 7.4% in the LA area. Now, I consider that flat. I don't consider that a major rise, but I'll take flat over everything else that's going on out there.
Right. At least if you're treading water now in certain areas, then at least you're treading water, and you're not, you may not be floating, but you're not sinking, and that's the kind of time, it is.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that commercials were up. I mean, I don't know how your commercial business is doing, but ours is doing fine. I mean, it's off a little bit, but it's not off terribly.
Right. And it's always in commercials, dealt with those for years as well. And it's always a roller coaster, and it's really busy. It's really slow. Now, I don't know if it's ever gangbusters at the moment, but it's busy and slow, slow and busy, busy and slow. And it's just, I'm used to the routine. I'm used to the roller coaster.
Yeah.
I wish it was the 90s again, where people had 10 commercial holds on their calendars every week.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's not going to happen.
But, it's like advertising is not dead. People keep saying advertising's dead. It's not. There's still plenty going on. And I think that the streamers that are now advertising, that is helpful. And I don't think they've figured out what they're doing yet, but
yeah.
It all adds up. It's all cool, it's good. And so, anyway, so moving on, let's talk about, I want to talk about Jimmy Carter. I have a lot to say about Jimmy Carter. From Deadline, Jimmy Carter voted by mail today in the 2024 presidential election, fulfilling a goal as he remains in hospice care and passed his 100th birthday earlier this month. The ballot was put in a drop box at the Sumter County Courthouse near Plains, Georgia, where he lives. Jason Carter, his grandson, told ABC News this week that the former president planned to vote for Kamala Harris. Jason Carter had said during the summer that his grandfather had a goal of living long enough to vote for Harris. It's like,
God bless him.
This is a pragmatist, right
here.
Yeah. Jimmy Carter is the first presidential vote I ever cast in 1977 when I was a senior in high school.
Yeah.
I had just signed up, and I cast my vote for Jimmy Carter.
I don't want to tell you who the first person I voted for was. Well, I can, I guess. Anyway, I'm a few years younger than you. Let's put it that way.
I'm aware.
So when I first voted, I guess I got caught up in the glamour of it all, and the first time I voted was for Reagan.
You voted for Ronald Reagan.
And
Oh
of course, in hindsight, I know much better now. But as a kid, I don't know what I look back and I'm like, what was going on in your mind? I don't know. Maybe it was the actor thing in him. I don't even know. But I feel
the actor thing.
I've been horrified ever since that. I shouldn't say horrified, but I've
No,
been
horrified is
I've been
horrified is
confused by that
absolutely
choice
the right
ever since. But here we are now. But with the current, I thank God for the people like Carter and those who are still putting out their vote. And he cares. There was a document. Once again, I hate to digress, but there was a documentary that I watched the other night called "Bad Faith." If you haven't seen it, and it's about democracy, but it's about the
evangelical church.
The evangelical church, Christianity, and the way it's impacted everything. So, not to speak out of turn about anyone, but it's fascinating, and it is really fascinating. So, because it really shows you how that is really what has driven a lot of where we are in this country today. So,
oh no, I firmly believe this is the truth because I used to
Christian nationalism is the word I couldn't find. It's about Christian nationalism. So, I'm a Christian. I believe myself to be a Christian. But anyway, you continue. I'm cutting you off.
That's okay. No, I went to an evangelical church for a long time, and I left that church primarily because over the gay marriage issue, because I could not wash. Well, two reasons. Number one, the gay marriage issue and how they're coming out not so vehemently against it, and there was Proposition 8 and all of that shit, which I understand was a Mormon thing, but the evangelicals were like jumping all over that. And I come from the theater, and I can't. It didn't wash with me, and and during the Bush era, if I heard them say, "Well, at least we have a president who, gets on his knees, and prays every day," at least, we have that. And it's like, do we? Does he? Is that important? Is that, it's like, it just signaled way too much overreach into political issues and too much overreach into our private lives. And none of it washed with me. So,
well, isn't the one of the ingredients of our Constitution is separation of church and state? I mean, what more? I mean, isn't so? If there is separation of church and state, that means we're just going to disregard the Constitution. I mean, in the worst case scenario, it's just none of it adds up for me. And you or say you're preaching to the choir about, as a gay man who's been married, I deserve the same rights as anyone else in this country. And
that's right.
And it's mind-boggling that that it's even a conversation anymore, really. But
yeah,
here we are.
It's like, yeah, but here we are. But back to Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter did some things very right, and he did some things very wrong. But what he did right, because this man was a Christian. I think he was a Baptist. He was very much on the socially progressive side, and while the gay marriage issue wasn't there yet, and the don't ask, don't tell issue wasn't there yet, you could tell that he was of the mind, and I think Tim Wolf put it best recently, where he said, my opinion is, it's none of your damn business, and it's true. It's none of your damn business. As institutions are concerned, it's none of your damn business. It's like, as long as it's consenting adults, and that's the thing. When I was in that church, and I was in that church for about 10 years. Another thing that kind of drove me away. I had a conversation one day where we were talking about gay marriage. Uh, I was talking specifically to someone I considered a close friend, and he said, "Well, if you allow gay marriage, the next thing
Is
is."
people marry sheep?
Yeah, exactly. He said bestiality. People marry sheep. And I said, I think we can draw the line at species, if that works.
Well,
But
you have to what you
you
just watch that
should,
watch the Woody Allen movie with Gene Wilder, right? Everything you want to know about sex, and
yeah.
he has a loving relationship with
Oh,
the sheep
yeah,
in that
yeah,
movie.
exactly. Oh, good old Woody Allen. Well, talk about
Yeah,
things.
that's a whole
Talk about
nother.
places you should draw the line.
Yeah,
Maybe we should more than get stuff where Woody Allen should
let's do a
draw
podcast
the
about
line.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, and okay, back to Jimmy Carter again.
from
Um,
sheep back to Jimmy Carter. Yes,
yes, from sheep to Jimmy Carter again. I really, he doesn't get as much appreciation as he should, because after his presidency, he didn't sit around. He started an entire movement, Habitat
not
for
for humanity.
Humanity, and I actually did a few days on Habitat for Humanity. Um, I mean, it's a pretty incredible movement, and it's really good work, and it's important work. So he put his in. He was into all kinds of humanitarian stuff, and that's better than just traveling around and giving speeches for $1 million a pop. He really kind of put his money where his mouth was, and I think that as far as a statesman is concerned, I think that's really, really what you want to see. So, um, yeah, me like Jimmy Carter. Yeah,
Me too.
fortunately, I want to go. I want to go back to why you voted for Ronald Reagan.
Because I was a stupid 18-year-old. I guess you're 18 when you can vote the first time, right? Isn't it 18?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so once again, I was a clueless 18-year-old who
Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
in the right here, you're in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley.
Because he was governor here.
All boys Catholic high school in Encino, California. All the California San Fernando valleys. That was my life.
Well, he was governor here. So, yeah.
And maybe that fed, but I don't believe my parents were staunch Democrats, so there's no way it's voting for Reagan. So maybe I was going through a rebellious period or something.
Yeah, I think it was total rebellion, but he was governor of the state. He had brand recognition here. We know about brand recognition. And
Totally.
yeah, that guy was very flawed.
Well, then as the age on and I matured, and then all the ridiculousness to follow with him, certainly regarding AIDS and all that stuff. It's talk about feeling like I have a scarlet letter for me in a way, forever having fathomed what was to come, or not even thinking in an adult way in that regard. But there you go.
Yeah. My college roommate was a White House videographer during that time, and he was actually in the room when Ronald Reagan said the bit about he was doing a mic test, and he says, I outlaw the Soviet Union. We start bombing in 5 minutes. And I said, and he said, "Oh, that was the least of it." He goes, he said stuff
Yeah.
like that all the time. He was out of his mind. And I was like,
Well,
okay.
there are some similarities in the wind now with our current situation. So that's
Well,
all I'll
yes,
say. That's all I will
yeah,
comment on there.
yeah. As far as losing your cognitive abilities,
Yes. No, and I'm referring to, never mind. I'm not referring to Biden. Let's put it that way.
I know who you're referring to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that's an opportunity for a shameless plug, as a matter of fact, because something that John and Will and I did in the last week or so, because John is the voice of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, and yeah, so we created this character on TikTok, and it's called Fibs from the Crypt, and it's John speaking in the Crypt Keeper voice, basically paraphrasing Trump sound bites. It's freaking hysterical.
I've got to see that. You have to send it to me.
Yeah, it hasn't quite gone viral yet, though. But
And
if we can turn a few votes with it, great. It's really good because the graphic basically it is the Crypt Keeper with like a blonde comb over and a a suit and red tie, so you kind of can't miss what what we're trying to do.
maybe I just found my Halloween costume this year from that.
Good luck replicating it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, in West Hollywood, you're gonna try. You're gonna go around as Donald
My
Trump.
my family always does a Halloween party, so I have, we've got split vote in the family as far as Democrats, Republicans, but I think I can get to my 40 family members with whatever I
Really, you have
wear.
Trumpers in your family?
Handful, yeah. And we all love each other to death. We just don't talk politics, really.
Oh,
So,
because I don't have
and
any Trumpers in my family.
it's not easy, but once again, all amazing people. I'm not here to tell them what to do, but they know where I stand, and I know where they stand, and we just kind of agree to disagree, kind of thing.
Huh?
Not easy, but what else can you do?
No, I don't know. Um, that's it for the news. Yay, Jimmy Carter. So we'll just get right into it. Um, this week's guest is esteemed grip and friend of the podcast, Dan Stevens. Danny has been in the business for decades. He's done any kind of project you can think of. He was an advisor to the governor's office during COVID to establish working protocols to get Hollywood back to work. He continues to advise IATSE Local 80 on all things grip. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nice to meet you, Danny.
Nice to meet you guys.
It's good to see you again. I recently had lunch with you and Philip Collins
Yes.
from Local 80 to talk about the state of the business for the craftspeople. We talked about, I'm going to go right there.
Yeah.
We talked about the meeting recently where leadership told the members they need a backup plan. Then there was a document outlining, it was coming out of Local 80, giving membership the criteria for becoming a student teacher.
Yeah.
It seems we're at an inflection point. Yeah, can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was I could say very concerning to hear your leadership in the union tell their members that start looking heavily at Plan B. Because usually they're the last one of like positive thinking and this is going to get better. This is just a moment in time, but they they weren't very optimistic, which put a lot of fear into everybody.
Can only imagine.
Have they walked it back at all?
Not really. They're moving. I mean, I have to admit they're making steps to help their membership. They're setting up training for people to get into the student teaching forum, and they are guiding people into stage hand work down in Long Beach, different avenues they're trying. It's just code red crisis moment to everybody, and that's what it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where that would be concerning. Did see the report yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that tracking with what you're experiencing? The lack of work around?
Yeah, it's I've been noticing it quite a bit. I work in commercials mainly, so I can speak on commercials. It's dropped off a cliff in the commercial work in LA. Up until about a month ago, it was fairly steady. The people that always work were still working, and then it kind of dropped off. I think that it's just hit a point to where everybody's jumping on board to just not shoot commercials in LA unless they absolutely have to, unless it's celebrity driven, talent driven, where they have to shoot it here to accommodate schedules and such. But I don't see that happening much longer, because even the celebrities are leaving. They're going to be in different different areas of the country. Everybody's getting chased out for a number of reasons. So it is getting more and more concerning day by day.
Yeah, I mean, commercials were up 7.5% in the third quarter, so I think that was good, but that tracks with what you're saying. That it just suddenly, I think the quarter four numbers are really going to be suffering.
Yeah, I think we got our Christmas commercials shot. The sports commercials for football, and so it's just kind of starting to fade off now. So it's very, very few commercials. So a bunch of the commercial people that I know have jumped on to TV shows and movies that are in town, taking different projects. So it's a thinning of the herd in the crew side for sure.
Yeah, like one of my a niece of mine, her husband is in the grip department, and I've always been in my mind hoping he didn't hit hard times, but he, like you said, he's part of the grip department on the morning show now, which is been shooting here, and he was just like, thank you God, but what's going to happen? I think he said he has another month or something on that.
Yeah,
but what happens in a month when that's over?
Well, yeah, it's scary because the industry kind of slows down towards the holidays. So we're coming into November. There would be the final push for commercials then, but if you don't have work lined up by December, it's kind of the calling it for the year.
And that's what I'm certainly, just in general, work-wise, not so much commercials, but long-form stuff, that narrative work that I'm working on. Most of it is maybe at this point, there's some things prepping before the end of the year, but 9 out of 10 things they would start shooting in February or later at this point. Yeah, pretty much. So. And not many, and almost none of them here in LA either.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay. At this point, with what you're seeing, Danny, on the ground, and how expensive it is to shoot in LA, do we think a significant raise to the tax incentive is going to help, or is LA just priced out now?
No, I think that is the answer. I think that a lot of things have to happen in addition to that. From what I see,
like what?
Like making it extremely difficult to shoot in LA, like the Film LA permit process. They make it extremely difficult to accommodate, changes in the business. Like, hey, we can't shoot because of weather on Tuesday, we need to shoot Wednesday. Well, you can't change the permit within 48 hours, so we can't do that for it. It's like there's no rhyme or reason why they need to make it so difficult. Other film markets don't make it that difficult. And it's like if you want to shoot in a one-way dirt road in LA County, you have to have 2 policemen, a water truck, a safety advisor, and a film fee of $2,000. To where if you go into Ventura County, it'll cost you $800. So they have to look at the overall of accommodating film crews and film companies to shoot in LA, and location fees have gone through the roof. Everybody kind of got used to very high location fees wherever you go. Oh, they have endless money. You need to pay me $15,000 a day for my house. This is just the going rate. And you go other markets, they're happy to have you for $2,000 a day. So we're just every avenue has just gotten very, greedy and used to the money, and it's just people are seeing that you could do this very easily in other places.
Is there a way to organize it? To bring those things back in line?
Well, I think having the film business go away is going to wake up a lot of people. I think it needs to be revamped in the Film LA office. To streamline things and maybe, Film LA is supposed to be a nonprofit organization. And it's just every turn, oh, that's going to cost you $2,000. Oh, you want to shoot in this bathroom and not this bathroom, or you want to change bathrooms, that's going to be another $3,000. It's like people have to wake up and accommodate like other markets do. And I think LA County specifically just needs to look at other film markets and see what formula they're using for their permitting process, and kind of jump on the backs of that to see what is working, because in LA it is not working.
Yeah. You're saying all the things that I believed were true, Danny, and what I keep thinking is, why is this so difficult to acknowledge for the state and the city to acknowledge this? Because we're supposed to be Hollywood. We're supposed to be the center of something. And when you can't even shoot a commercial here without breaking the bank, I mean, it's insanity.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit, back in the 90s when I was working in production in New York, there was a time period where things really dropped off in New York, and New York just became a location. And it had mostly to do with unionization. It mostly had to do with that you had the ABE and you had NABIT, and they were competing with each other. And you had the Teamsters who were very, very aggressive. And, it made it overall just an uncomfortable place to shoot, where it shouldn't have been that bad to shoot there because there were so many resources, and that the competition there was natural. But if you were on, for example, if you were like shooting out in New Rochelle, and you had 2 Teamsters and you were supposed to have 4 or 5, a carload of Teamsters would show up at your set, and they would get out. They go, give us time cards, and you'd have to give them time cards, and they'd fill them out. You had to put them in. And it was like a lot of things, not just that, but a lot of things like that made New York very, very unfriendly to shoot in. And I think that from a cost perspective, and LA is finding itself in the same place where
no, for sure.
It's not even that it's expensive. It's been expensive for a long time. It's that it's become unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's unpredictable, it becomes, you come to here because it's a location, because you have to be here.
Yeah.
Because talent mandates it, or the location mandates it.
Yeah.
You need to be outside. You need to see the tall palm trees, or you need to see what is demonstrably an LA beach. That's why people are here.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And now they go to Australia and they shoot at the beach in Australia to look like the beach here. So
Yep.
in a lot of ways, that's been handled. Speaking of the Teamster thing you brought up, I just heard this story yesterday. One of the guys, and another thing I never thought of, it wasn't something shooting in LA, but it was like, with the union now with films, you've got tier 1, tier 2, the different tiers going down to like tier 0 as far as films go. And this small budget film was East Coast, and I never thought of it that even if it's tier 0, the Teamsters still have their deal, which is what it is. I guess it's not. There's no. It's not a different side. Like, oh, it's tier 0, so they're less. And this particular production didn't account for that, so they were spending tons more money than they thought they would on like the Teamsters. Then in some instances they even were on the crew, because even though it was a tier 1 or tier 0 film, what the Teamster deal is the deal, anyway. And I never thought of how there's so many layers to all of this now that I don't know how anything gets shot sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it gets shot by people going places where they'll be left alone.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like the filmmaking process is already difficult just logistically. To have obstructions that people and producers and crew should not have to deal with at all, to have that as a constant blockade is just, people are not interested in making the job more difficult than it needs to be. And that's the bottom line with any industry. It's like they're going to go to the least expensive, least problematic, space. And that currently is just not LA. They go to smaller markets, New Mexico, Austin, even Atlanta is getting to be a less work there because of they're becoming the same way. So they're finding that the film markets and the film communities in foreign countries are much more accepting and much easier. So they take the entire, machine down to other countries, and that's what's really hurting everything. It's actually leaving the country, not just LA.
Oh, most of the films I've done in the last 6 months, 9 out of 10 were not in the country at all.
Yeah,
everywhere but the U.S. And in some of those instances, they're not in jurisdiction. So if a union member wants to go do a film in Eastern Europe and then they avoid the union here entirely, they can't. But that means all the local people who are used to be on their crew in the States is unemployed.
Yeah.
So it's so many layers to this.
Yeah. I mean, I send so much to Mexico now. It's just absolutely ridiculous how much is going to Mexico, because in Mexico anything goes.
Yeah.
And especially Mexico City, anything goes. And there's freedom there. I mean, when you have a film market that's as mature, shall we say, as LA and Hollywood, then you have, Film LA is the way it is for a reason. It is because over decades, layers of bureaucracy have been laid over one after another, after another, after another. And all of a sudden you get something that is so rigid that they can't bend anymore. I think they need to strip the whole thing down.
Yeah,
and
I think so too.
And start again to have any kind of chance at getting the amount of work back that they know they need to get back.
Yes.
I guess the question is how to tell the people that run Film LA that they need to start over. That's going to be a tough conversation.
Yes and no. Yes, they're a nonprofit, but those people all get paid, and if they get a grant, say a grant from the California Film Commission, or in conjunction with the LA Film Commission, then that's more money in their pocket, a little bonus, shall we say, to make things easier.
Yeah.
money talks. It's the
Yeah.
film industry. Money talks. So give them some money to do it, and they'll do it.
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't know the exact process, but it's like the things that I hear on set is like, oh, you have to with the drone. Oh, you can't just throw a drone. It has to go through all this. And I understand the FAA regulations and all that, but any kind of change. Oh, you can't change your permit past 7 o'clock at night. You can't change it 2 days before the shoot. There's all these restrictions, and it all just comes down to they want money to do it. And that just seems like it's a huge part of the problem. It's like to do things that doesn't cost anything. It's a piece of paper that there's no retribution, there's no safety hazard, but yet they forbid it because they have these set of rules that someone's made. That just seems crazy to me. That like you said, it's unbendable. And they just thought that there was no way the film market would ever leave LA because we're the heart of Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. But now they're realizing that, oh, yeah, you're going to have your rules. We're not going to be here. So I think that's a huge part of the problem.
Well, it can be done. Like just as I was talking about how Teamsters are on the East Coast, Teamsters on the West Coast are pretty much the opposite. It's like they would no more they pile up in a car and drive into a production and fill out time cards than anything else. It's like because they know that they want to keep getting hired.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, they don't care. They know that they have to be hired. On the West Coast, they don't act like they have to be hired. And it feels to me like Film LA needs to take the attitude of people don't have to shoot here.
Oh, I think,
they don't have to shoot here anymore. We have to make them want to shoot here.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, I've written about this in articles before, but there's some serious numbers involved,
For sure.
There are several kind of grassroots organizations coming out of the film community that are beginning to actively lobby Sacramento. And those are the things that happen, that can happen. I think a huge thing that needs to happen is that all of the IA unions in LA need to band together and approach Sacramento as one voting bloc. Because that's over 200,000 people. SAG alone has 80,000 members in the LA area. And it's up to IA leadership to organize and go after this problem. IA leadership really they can move this needle because politicians respond to what will get them elected next time. And if they see that there are over 200,000 votes up for grabs on this issue, they will start to come into line.
Yeah. I think you saw the local 80s packet that they're going to the state with. I think they're being very proactive, that Philip Collins also helped with. I think that every union needs to have that. And like you said, approach them as a voting base. It's a lot of numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all the unions need to get together and do one deck like that.
Yeah. I agree.
And bring it together in a very threatening fashion.
Yeah.
The politicians need to know, okay, these aren't movie stars. These are working people.
Right.
These are people that are beginning to become untenable. And you guys are either going to put up or we're all going to leave the state.
Yeah. Well, it's happening. The numbers of people just on my side of the business that are leaving and actively and, moving everything is astonishing. I can think of 10 people that are close to me that I know right now that are moving right now. That's just people in my immediate circle. It's like I see it, people selling all their gear, camera houses are closing, movie ranches are up for sale. It's every week you see more and more of like, oh, there's another one. There's something else. You see Warner Brothers and Sony looking at state, property in Vegas, and It's like everybody's looking for the exit door.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a difference between a 7,000 member local 80 and a 200,000
Yep.
member IA, SAG AFTRA, DGA push
Yeah.
Right.
into Sacramento on this as a block. The problem has always been in the negotiations that everybody, I include WGA in this too, that everybody has a different agenda. This is one agenda. There's no reason why they can't get together on it. It's
True.
one problem.
Exactly. And it just can't, they can't wait until everything is so buried and in the toilet and then want to make change, which is often what happens in situations like this. It is already a crisis. What are we waiting for?
Right. They should be having rallies weekly, big ones, big ass rallies. You know, it takes up to the union leadership to organize this stuff. Get on the phone. Do like what Bill and I do every day.
Yeah.
Just, you know, make it happen. You got to
negotiate, be a therapist, tap dance, whatever the fuck you got to do to make it happen. You know,
that is correct. Anyway, so yeah, I mean that's we're at a strange spot. You know, everyone was saying survive till 25, but I think this is a bigger problem than that. And,
Yeah, it's a bigger problem.
Yeah. You know, it's like it's going to become don't hang yourself by 26. And so, but I really do think that what can move the needle is the community coming together, and the natural organization of that is what it's always been, and that is the unions.
Yeah, I think that using the analogy of a huge block of votes, that is the crux of the argument. It's like they need to be a big push to something that's going to make them notice for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because the unions can get people to come out too. They're organizers. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Maybe a whole group of us agents, you know, trying to sit down with the union, how many of us there are, 15, 20, try to rally a meeting where we all sit down and of like mind and talk to the unions, you know?
Let's go back to the top of the show where we talk about how you and I are the only agents that
we don't want to kill.
Get along. We're the only ones who are friends. I remember years ago we had that AICP problem when we all tried to get together, and it kind of devolved into like
true
insults.
But as you said, as you just said, money talks, and if all of these people, whether we like them or not, some of them we love, a lot of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
Money talks, and if everyone feels like their business is being really hit and hurt by this, maybe people can put their shit aside for a little while and do it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
You're looking at me like, okay, Bill, make it happen.
Yeah. Make a call, Bill. Make a call.
I will.
Oh boy. Okay. I want to see one last time. Oh, it's called California United. And it can be found. This is an organization that is starting to lobby Sacramento. www.caunited.org. That's www.caunited.org. I just applied for membership yesterday. I would suggest everyone else do the same. So, yeah, that's kind of where it's at. Danny, thank you so much for joining us, and
Always a pleasure.
and having a good cry together.
Greatly. The Debbie Downer podcast.
I know, exactly.
We're the realists, the truth tellers.
Yeah.
We're the truth tellers. Yeah,
Nice to meet you, Danny.
Nice to meet you, sir. It's always a pleasure, guys.
he's a great guy.
Yeah, he seems really cool.
Salt of the earth. That's our show. And anyone who hasn't already jumped out the window, join us next week.
You should have to end it with some really fabulous, loud, joyful music of so.
I think John Philip Sousa.
Exactly. Well, thank you for including me today, Steve. I appreciate it.
It's always fun to talk with you, Bill.
Talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
All right.